Well, here we are at the Tropical Desert Patio. Sort of a new project we've been working on here at Fairchild. And it's the middle of summer. It's hot, it's been raining, it's humid. Why are we talking about desert? Well, for a couple of reasons. But just to start looking what's been going on, what we have here is basically plants in pots. And this idea started about 5-6 years ago. We just had this area of concrete and we wanted to start using pots for things that didn't need any irrigation and very low maintenance. And so what we're using in these pots is almost pure perlite for a lot of drainage. So some of these have been in the same pot for a good 6 years with almost no maintenance. So it's low maintenance. But this started working. We started realizing that there's a few reasons these can be useful. One, we can grow some species we want to grow that'll just rot in the ground. Again, it gets really hot and wet here, but we're a tropical monsoon climate, so we also have a really marked dry season. So kind of playing with that idea, trying some plants that we struggled with. This plant right here was getting eaten by iguanas. Well, a pot will keep iguanas off. And now it's working really well. But then we realized that also with the advent of balconies, a lot of people now live in high rises, you have a rental, you have a small space, you want a few plants. And it's great to have them low maintenance. And so some of these tropical desert plants work really well for that. And I think what people get confused with it is there's a difference between summer growing succulents and winter growing. So a lot of things, if you go to Huntington, Southern California, or the Southwest areas, they can grow things that are called winter growers. They grow in the cool, wet winter, and they go dormant in the hot, dry summer. But the summer growers, similar to our climate, they like a good dry season, but then they like a bunch of water and humidity. So we're looking at things that can do well in balconies, plants we couldn't grow, keeping it low maintenance, but also we found there's a lot of small plants we like to grow that get lost in the garden. If you have it like our Madagascar spiny forest, things get lost. So we had a few reasons, really for the whole balcony concept, what people can grow. We can grow some things we rot in the ground, or we can grow some small plants that are really beautiful and interesting for different reasons. So we expanded the project into what was basically an empty area, and this was a retaining wall. And we're sort of calling it the Tropical Desert Patio. And this is actually supported in part by the Stanley Smith Horticultural Trust, which is very much a shout out to that. And we built the second wall here for a raised bed. So we're doing all these plantings, and it's fairly new. So we just started planting this really in spring, early spring, maybe March. So a lot of things are just starting to get going. And there's a lot of green right now because it's the growing season. But what's great about that is we get a lot of flowers in winter and spring. As we look at the layout, we're using some pots, again, different colors, styles, but tall and deep, and we're using almost pure organic perlite for most of that mixture. So it won't break down through time, your plants don't sink in the pot, and they can last years. And so we can go around and look at a few of these plants. Again, a lot of them newly planted. We have certain groups we think will do really well on people's balconies, things like adeniums, the desert roses, pachypodiums, and some of these new aloe hybrids. So we're trying a lot of those. The aloes are actually blooming now because they bloom while they're growing. It's a little color. But we have quite a few different things that we're trying out. We're experimenting. We still plant at least a few things every week and are moving them around to really come up with great balcony plants for South Florida. So right now we're at the raised bed portion of the patio, and we're planting. We're going to be pretty dense. But one of the ideas is we're keeping plants that's smaller or slower growing so we can move them around later. We have quite a few of these little miniature species of Euphorbia from Madagascar, which are really easy to grow here. And up close, they're really fun. And I think that's the difference of a balcony. When, the balcony, your whole vista is out and beyond. But when you're sitting at a table, you tend to be very close up to these plants, so you see a lot of detail. That's a bit different from when you're out in the garden with the planting and you're part of vistas. Balconies are small, they're a little intimate, they're like a jewel box. And so this has a lot of color. This is Euphorbia francosii. There are many forms of the species. This one's a wild type, variety Crassicale. Really great forms, lots of new hybrids coming out, very popular in Thailand. I think other groups, you see more miniatures of those, are the adeniums. Most of them are not heavily in bloom right now. We'll see a few buds here and there, but a lot of the types really do well, again, in winter and spring. And this is the group I'm really liking. This is a group called the Adenium arabicum. So those and hybrids with arabicum do really well in South Florida. And we don't often think of that, but South Florida, our latitude is basically right with Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So we're kind of actually a desert latitude here in South Florida. We're the same as the Chihuahuan Desert, the Sahara. And so a lot of these are adapted to it. They just get a little less rain in their growing season. But again, if you want to grow on a porch, you never want to water it. You use a lot of perlite for aeration, you can grow these plants really well. Here we have Socotra, a small island off the tip of the Horn of Africa with all sorts of oddball plants. One here, we're getting going. It's the only member of the cucumber family that's not a vine. It actually makes a tree, a really thick, stubby tree, which would be fun to grow here. It does very well with some aeration, light soils. We have others from Dorstenia gigas, one we're liking. We also have some things that we just want to grow even for more scientific. We do have some plants from the Caribbean that we have been working with on research in here. We also like to have, for some of our more advanced courses, certain families we don't normally show. So we do have a neophyte back here, an odd term, and if you ever heard of Welwitschia, the tree tumbo of Angola and Namibia, we're actually trying them outdoors right now. And while I can grow that in controlled climates, and we grew this from a seedling, here we're actually trying to grow it outdoors while capturing rain and to make it easy to grow. But we'll see if we can pull it off. That's something we wouldn't be able to show in any other way. So now we're walking down the raised bed a little bit, and you'll see a lot more different types of adeniums. And this one here is also a cross off that Arabicum. But there's some that are being produced in Thailand, really to make them very short, dwarf, and very thick. And I sort of pull up the rods, and you can see you get almost an iceberg effect. And so these are very low growing ones, smaller. You'll also see more of these aloes. And so basically there's some groups of aloes from Madagascar and even some from East Africa that have become popular in hybridizing. So if you go to Southern California, Arizona, also Thailand, you'll see all these new colorful hybrids coming out. And what's interesting is we actually have a great climate for them. So they love our summer and humidity and grow really easily. They're not particularly frost tolerant, so everyone growing them in the Southwest and even Southern California, a lot of them have to cold protect them. Here we don't. And in the original plantings, we had one hybrid that just grew into a large pincushion over 5 years. So these do keep branching at the base, they flower, and you'll see different colors. And so this one actually was hybridized at Huntington Botanical Garden. And so we just trying to get as many out there as we can to start seeing what works the best, what has colors, and what works. Obviously, we're very bright here, so this is for a south-facing balcony, these particular plants. But we're trying a lot of different things out, and some of them actually can handle a bit more shade and easily would work on east or west balconies. So now we're here on the other side of the raised bed, a little more experimental, a little more mixed, but just to give an idea of some of the different things we're trying. This is actually a Euphorbia that we were growing out in the garden. It's been here over 25 years. But it kept getting damaged down low. So I want to get it up so we could keep this going. Again, very slow dwarf miniature, fun species. And some other experiments. This is actually a species from Hawaii. We don't do a lot of Hawaiian endemics. It's from Molokai, and it's Portulaca molokaiensis. Can do really well in Southern California drier, but we'll see how it does here. No guarantees. Another really unusual plant, this was one from Thailand. It's Rhydia sirikite. It's named for the Queen Sirikit of Thailand. It has a beautiful flower, and in many ways, if you go to Thailand, it's used a lot like an adenium classically. So you'll see them in pots with a nice sculptural base. And now adeniums are very popular, but that's something we'd love to hear and get growing and flowering.